Welcome back to another Sunday Sewing Club tutorial. Today I'm going to show you how to sew the beginner-friendly Cleo Makeup Bag. It comes in 5 different sizes and is perfect for travel, gifting, or just giving your bathroom shelf a glow up. If you already have the pattern, you can find all the details for sizing, materials and printing on pages 4 to 7 of your instruction booklet. And if you don't have the pattern yet, there's a link in the description to buy it on our website. Now let's get into the tutorial, for which we'll be making the regular makeup bag size. First, we're going to start by quilting your main fabric. Place the main body pattern piece on your fabric and cut a rectangle roughly a few centimeters or 1 inch larger than the pattern piece. Then lay the fabric piece on top of your wadding or batting and cut a rectangle a couple of centimeters or 1 inch larger than the fabric. On the right side of your fabric, start marking out your quilting lines. Just keep in mind the zip will go along the shorter edge. Unless you're making the pencil case size, then it's the longer edge. And this might impact how you want to draw your lines. For your quilting lines, you can choose any pattern you like. For example, you might want to do straight lines perpendicular to the short edge, spaced about 2.5 centimeters or 1 inch apart, like I'm doing here. Or you could mix it up with a crisscross diagonal pattern. I'm using a heat erasable fabric pen that I found on Amazon to draw my lines, but you can also use Taylor's chalk or any erasable fabric marker. The pen is linked on my Amazon Sewing Finds page in the description if you're interested in getting one for yourself. And if you've got a quilting bar or your fabric already has lines that you want to follow, you can skip this step altogether. When you have finished drawing your quilting lines, lay your fabric on top of the wadding or batting, wrong side facing down, and pin around the edges to prevent movement while sewing. Now quilt along each marked line using a straight stitch set to a 3.0 length, backstitching at the start and end of each line. Now I'm using the iron to remove my fabric markings, but depending on what type of erasable fabric pen you used, this might look different for you. Once the quilting is done, you can cut out your fabric and lining for the whole bag. Evenly position your main body pattern piece on the quilted fabric and cut around it. Try to keep the pattern piece as flat to the fabric as possible, as it will have some dimension now that it is quilted. Also cut out the main body and lining and the end tab in fabric. Instructions for cutting layouts can be found on page 10 of your instruction booklet. We're going to start sewing the zip. Place the main body in quilted fabric right side up and then pin the zip along one edge, right side of fabric to right side of zip. Make sure both ends of the zipper extend evenly past the fabric edges and that your quilted fabric isn't bunching under the zip. Attach your zipper foot and change back to a regular stitch length, which is usually 2.4, and then sew down the length of the zipper, keeping the stitching close to the zipper teeth. Bring the unsewn edge of the zip over to the parallel edge of the quilted fabric, right side of fabric to right side of zip. Again, pin the zipper tape along the fabric edge, making sure the ends of the fabric align evenly on both sides of the zip. Sew down the length of the zipper, keeping your stitching close to the teeth. Pin the lining edge to the zip, right side of lining to wrong side of zip, and making sure the lining aligns with the quilted fabric below. Again, sew down the length of the zipper. It will be a bit harder to get close to the zipper teeth this time as the zip isn't visible, there's more layers, and the lining will want to pull away from the zipper edge. But take your time, go slowly, and keep the lining in place as best you can with your fingers while feeling for the zipper teeth. Bring the other lining edge to meet the other zipper tape. Again, right side of lining to wrong side of zip. Pin it in place, but this time mark a gap in the center, which you'll use to turn the bag right side out later. If you're making the large makeup bag, mark a 15cm or 6-inch gap. If you're making the keychain bag, mark a 6cm or 2.5-inch gap. And if you're making any of the other sizes, mark a 10cm or 4-inch gap. Sew down the length of the zipper minus the gap, again going slowly to keep the lining in place and feel for the zipper teeth. Unzip the zip, turn the whole bag right side out, and press the quilted fabric and lining away from the zip on both sides. This will help prevent the zip slider from getting caught in the fabric. Now we're going to sew the end tabs. Fold the end tab piece in half widthwise, right sides together, and press. Sew along the open edge. Hook a safety pin through one end of the seam allowance and turn the piece right side out and press it flat. Cut the piece in half, then press each tab in half lengthwise. Next up is assembling the bag. Turn the bag wrong side out again and re-zip the zip so the slider is positioned in the middle of the bag. Lay the bag out with the zipper running down the middle, the quilted fabric on the bottom and the lining on top. At the top and bottom edges, pin the layers together, ensuring they align neatly. Place each end tab between the quilted fabric layers, aligning the center of the tab with the notch on the main body. At the end with the open zipper tape, ensure the zipper teeth are lined up as neatly as possible. This part can be quite fiddly, so take a bit of time making sure the end tab is sandwiched between the quilted fabric correctly, otherwise it may come out a bit wonky. Sew across the top and bottom edges, taking care to sew slowly over the zipper. Trim any excess zipper tape. To form one corner of the bag, pinch the quilted fabric corner so that the first point meets the second point. This will flatten the corner into a straight edge with the seam running down the middle. Pin the quilted fabric in place with the seam allowance pushed away from the zip. Repeat this motion with the lining corner on the other side, then repin the layers together. It may take a bit of rearranging to get the lining sitting neatly on top. Make sure the corner is sitting nice and flat with diagonal edges, then sew along the corner. Repeat these steps for the other 3 corners of the bag. The bag will become progressively smaller and more fiddly the more corners that you sew. Turn the bag right side out through the gap left in the zip and the lining. Then turn the bag through the zipper opening to return it to its correct orientation. At the lining opening, tuck the seam allowance inwards and pin it closed from the right side of the fabric. Using a zipper foot, top stitch close to the edge along both sides of the zipper. Depending on how bulky your fabric is and your machine's capabilities, you might not be able to start stitching right from the end, but just begin as close to the end as possible. As you're sewing, pull the fabric and zip away from each other with your fingers, to ensure as much as possible that the zipper slider won't get caught. Finally, poke out the corners and give all 4 corner seams a press. And that's a wrap on the Cleo Makeup Bag by Sunday Sewing Club. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you learnt some new skills or found it helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe so others can find it too. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok and Pinterest, and discover more patterns on our website. See you next time!